The message came on a Tuesday morning. Admiral Kong Tae stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the alien vessel appear from hyperspace. It was beautiful in a terrible way. The ship was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Its surface was smooth like glass, and it glowed with a soft purple light. Kong Tae had served in the United Earth Navy for 30 years. He had seen many things, but he had never seen anything like this. The communications screen flickered to life. An alien face appeared. It had gray skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its mouth was thin and cruel. "I am Ambassador Raylos of the Valoran Dominion," the alien said. Its voice was cold and empty of emotion. "I bring a message for your species." Kong Tae straightened his back. "I am Admiral Kong Tae. Earth welcomes you." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Earth does not welcome us. Earth submits to us. That is the message I bring," Ambassador explained. The Valoran Dominion was an empire that had existed for 40,000 years. It controlled 3,000 star systems. It had conquered 847 species. Now it had decided that humanity would be the 848th. "Your species is hereby declared a servitor class under Galactic Law 7791, Raylo said. "All humans are now property of the Dominion. You have 30 standard days to surrender your worlds and present yourselves for classification." The screen showed a map. 10,000 Valoran warships sat at the edge of the solar system. Their weapons were charged. Their soldiers were ready. "Resistance is not advised," Raylo added, "but it is permitted. We find it entertaining." The transmission ended. Kong Tae stood in silence for a long moment. Then he picked up his communicator and called Earth. President Yoon Hannah received the news in her office. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had led humanity through 3 major crises in her 10 years as president. But this was different. This was extinction. She called an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council. Military leaders from every nation gathered in the underground bunker beneath. Their faces were grim. General Li Wu presented the numbers. Earth had 847 warships. The Valorans had 10,000 at the border alone. Their total fleet numbered over 1 million vessels. Their technology was estimated to be 2,000 years more advanced than humanity's. "We cannot win a conventional war," Li Wu said. "Our ships would be destroyed in hours. Our colonies would fall in days. Earth itself might last a week." The room fell silent. Some leaders looked afraid. Others looked angry. None looked hopeful. Then a door opened. A man walked in. He was old and thin, with white hair and thick glasses. His name was Park Jin, and officially he was a professor of physics at a small university. Unofficially, he was the head of something called the Prometheus Initiative. "Madam President," Park Jin said, "may I speak?" Yoon Hannah nodded. Park Jin walked to the front of the room. He moved slowly, like a man who had carried a heavy weight for a long time and was finally ready to set it down. 112 years ago, he began, humanity detected its first alien signal. We learned that we were not alone. We also learned that the universe was dangerous. Empires rose and fell out there. Species were enslaved and exterminated. The strong survived. The weak disappeared. He paused. Our leaders at that time made a decision. They decided that humanity would not be weak. They created the Prometheus Initiative. Its purpose was simple. We would prepare for the day when someone came to destroy us. General Li Wu frowned. "We know about Prometheus. You developed new weapons, new ships, but the technology gap is still too large." Park Jin smiled. It was a strange smile, patient, almost sad. "General, you misunderstand. Prometheus was never about catching up to alien technology. We knew that was impossible. Instead, we focused on something else. We asked ourselves a question. What makes humanity different?" He pressed a button. Images appeared on the screen. Pictures of Earth's history. Wars, disasters, plagues, ice ages, asteroid impacts. Through it all, humans survived. Most species in this galaxy evolved on peaceful worlds, Park Jin said. They developed technology before they developed the instinct to fight. But Earth is not a peaceful world. Our planet tried to kill us every single day. Disease, predators, natural disasters, other humans. We survived it all. We adapted. We overcame. He turned to face the council. The Valorans are powerful because they have better ships and bigger guns. But they have never truly fought for survival. They have never faced extinction. They do not understand what it means to be desperate. President Yoon leaned forward. What exactly did Prometheus create? Park Jin's smile faded. His eyes became serious. We created a species that cannot be conquered. We built hidden bases on 1,000 asteroids. We trained soldiers who can fight without ships, without supplies, without hope. We developed weapons that do not destroy armies, but destroy civilizations. We prepared humanity not to win a war, but to make any war against us so costly that no empire would dare fight it. Looked at the faces around him. Valorans think. They are offering us a choice between slavery and death. They are wrong. We have a third option. We can make them regret ever learning our name. The room was quiet. President Yoon Hana stood. She was not a soldier. She was not a scientist. She was a leader. And leaders made decisions. What do you need? She asked. Your permission, Park Jin answered. In 30 days, the president nodded. You have both. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Relos received humanity's official response to the ultimatum. It was delivered by Admiral Kang Tae himself, broadcast on every frequency across the galaxy. The message was 2 words long. We decline. Relos watched the transmission with his 4 cold eyes. Then he gave the order to begin the invasion. He did not know it yet, but he had just made the greatest mistake in the history of the Valoran Dominion. The war had begun, and humanity was ready. Commander Baek-Su was 34 years old. She had brown eyes and short black hair and a scar on her left cheek from a training accident. She commanded 19 patrol ships stationed near Titan, Saturn's largest moon. When the Valoran fleet came, she had no illusions about her chances. 300 enemy warships against 19 patrol vessels. The math was simple. The math was death, but Baek-Su had not joined the Navy to do simple math. All ships, she said into her communicator. This is Commander Baek. Implement Protocol 0. Her crew looked at her with wide eyes. Protocol 0 was a last resort. It was designed for situations exactly like this one. Situations where winning was impossible and dying was certain. The Valoran ships descended toward Titan like a silver cloud. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons powered up with a low hum that could be heard even through the vacuum of space. They were confident. They were powerful. They had done this 847 times before. They had never faced. Humans. Baek-Su's ships did not attack. Instead, they ran. They flew toward Titan's orbital mining stations, weaving between the massive structures like fish swimming through coral. The Valorans followed. They were faster. They were stronger. They would catch these tiny human vessels and crush them like insects. That was exactly what Baek-Su wanted. For 17 years, humanity had been mining hydrogen from Titan's atmosphere. Millions of tons of the gas sat in storage tanks orbiting the moon. It was fuel for Earth ships. It was also, under the right conditions, a very powerful explosive. Baek-Su led the Valoran fleet into the center of the mining field. Then she gave the order. Detonate. The explosion was visible from Earth. 17 years of stored hydrogen ignited in a single moment. A ball of fire expanded outward, consuming everything in its path. Valoran ships that had survived thousands of battles were torn apart like paper. Their shields, designed to stop weapons fire, could not handle the raw force of the blast. When the light faded, 91 Valoran ships were gone. 200 more drifted through space, broken and burning. The remaining ships retreated in confusion. Baek-Su's 19 patrol vessels emerged from behind Titan's shadow. They had hidden there, protected by the moon's mass. They had not lost a single ship. The news spread across the galaxy within hours. A primitive species had destroyed nearly a third of a Valoran attack fleet. It was impossible. It was embarrassing. It was the first time in 10,000 years that the Dominion had suffered such a defeat. The High Council was furious. They ordered the full fleet to proceed to Earth. No more games. No more small attacks. They would crush these humans with overwhelming force. But while the Valoran fleet gathered, humanity was not waiting. Captain O'Day was a quiet man. He did not look like a soldier. He looked like a teacher or a shopkeeper. That was why he was perfect for his mission. His team landed on New Haven 3 days after the Titan incident. New Haven was a human colony world that had already fallen to the Valorans. 60,000 humans had been captured and put to work in the mines and factories. O'Day's mission was not rescue. Not yet. First, he needed information. He spent 2 weeks watching the Valorans. He learned how they organized their slaves. He learned how they guarded their facilities. He learned how they thought, and he discovered something. Important, the Valorans were afraid of nothing. This seemed like strength. It was actually weakness. Because they feared nothing, they prepared for nothing. Their security was lazy. Their soldiers were overconfident. They had never needed to be careful before. O'Day sent his report back to Earth. Park Jin read it and smiled. Perfect, the old scientist said. They have forgotten what it means to fight an enemy who has nothing to lose. On Earth, the evacuation was almost complete. 8 billion people had disappeared in 3 weeks. The cities stood empty. The streets were silent. The planet looked like a tomb, but the humans were not dead. They were hiding. Not in bunkers on Earth, but scattered across 1,000 hidden locations throughout the solar system and beyond. Asteroid bases. Underground facilities on distant moons. Ships disguised as debris floating in the darkness between worlds. Park Jin had spent a century building this network. Now, it would be used. General Li Wu coordinated the next phase. While the Valoran fleet approached Earth, human strike teams prepared to attack the Dominion itself. They expect us to defend our homeworld, Li Wu told his commanders. They expect us to stand and fight and die like every other species they have conquered. We will not give them what they expect. The plan was simple in concept and terrifying in execution. Humanity would not fight the Valoran fleet. They would ignore it. Instead, they would attack the Empire's weak points. Food supplies, power systems, communication networks. Everything that kept the Dominion running. Colonel Shinmira led the first attack. Her target was an agricultural world called the Sara. It fed 12 Valoran systems. Without it, millions would starve. Shinmira was young. She had a soft face and gentle eyes. She did not look like someone who could bring famine to a planet, but war changed people. War revealed what they were capable of. Her team of 40 soldiers landed on the Sara without being detected. They did not attack the fields or the warehouses. They attacked the computers. The AI systems that controlled planting and harvesting and distribution. Within 6 hours, Thessera's entire agricultural network crashed. Crops rotted in the fields. Food sat in warehouses while distribution systems failed. The planet that had never known hunger suddenly could not feed itself. Similar attacks hit 14 worlds at the same time. Power grids went dark. Water purification systems failed. Communication satellites stopped working. The Valoran Dominion had not been attacked like this in 20,000 years. They did not know how to respond. On the bridge of his flagship, Fleet Commander Torvis received report after report of chaos across the Empire. He could not understand it. How were the humans everywhere at once? How did they know exactly where to strike? He ordered his ships to bombard Earth. For 72 hours, they fired everything they had at the planet's surface. Mountains collapsed. Oceans boiled. The surface became a wasteland of fire and ash. When the bombardment ended, Valoran troops descended to find the human bunkers. They would drag the survivors out. They would make examples of them. But the bunkers were empty. They had always been empty. The humans had never been on Earth at all. Torvis stared at the empty tunnels and felt. something he had not felt in his entire life: fear. 3 months into the war, the Valoran Dominion was bleeding. It was not the kind of bleeding that came from battles. There were no great fleets destroyed, no planets conquered. Instead, it was a slow bleeding, a wound that would not heal. Every day something else went wrong. A factory exploded, a power grid failed, a supply convoy disappeared. The humans were everywhere, and they were nowhere. High Counselor Veth stood before the ruling body and spoke words that had not been spoken in the council chamber for 10,000 years. "We should negotiate," he said. "This war is costing us more than these humans are worth." The other counselors stared at him in silence. Then they called for his execution. Veth died that evening, his body thrown into the recycling pits like garbage. The message was clear. The Dominion did not negotiate. The Dominion did not show weakness, but the attacks continued. On New Haven, Neri organized the resistance. She was 28 years old. Before the invasion, she had been a teacher. She taught children how to read and write and think. Now she taught adults how to fight and kill and survive. 60,000 humans had been taken as slaves when New Haven fell. The Valorans put them to work in mines and factories. They thought these humans were broken. They thought wrong. Every slave became a spy. Every worker became a saboteur. They passed information to each other in whispers and glances. They stole supplies. They damaged equipment in ways that looked like accidents. They waited for the right moment. That moment came when Nari received a message from Earth. 2 words: begin uprising. That night, every major factory on New Haven shut down. Fires broke out in 12 locations. 3 Valoran officers were found dead in their quarters. The slaves disappeared into the wilderness, taking weapons and supplies with them. The Valoran governor ordered mass executions. He killed 1,000 humans in the central square. He broadcast the killings across the planet as a warning. It did not work. For every human killed, 10 more joined the resistance. The Valorans did not understand. Death was supposed to create fear, but these humans did not seem to fear death. They seemed to welcome it. As long as they could take Valorans with them, the governor sent a desperate message to Fleet Commander Torvis. "These creatures are insane," he wrote. "They smile while we kill them. They laugh while they die. What kind of species is this?" Torvis had no answer. He was dealing with his own problems. Admiral Kung Tae had finally emerged from hiding. His fleet was small, only 400 ships, but he had chosen his target carefully. The Nexus of Korath was the heart of the Valoran transportation network. Thousands of hyperspace lanes converged at this single point. Without it, the Empire would be split into isolated pieces. Communication would be slow. Reinforcements would be impossible. The Dominion would begin to fall apart. Torvis gathered 2,000 ships to defend the Nexus. He was confident. 5-to-1 odds. The humans would be destroyed. But Kong Tae was not trying to win. The battle lasted 9 hours. Human ships attacked in waves, not trying to destroy the Valoran fleet, but to distract it. To keep it busy, to draw its attention away from the real target. While the fleets fought, a small team of human engineers worked on the Nexus itself. They planted charges at critical points. They programmed the detonation sequence. They knew they would not survive to see the explosion. They did it anyway. Kong Tae lost 340 ships. His own flagship was crippled. He drifted through space in a damaged escape pod, watching the battle end. Then the Nexus exploded. The hyperspace lanes collapsed like falling bridges. The Valoran Dominion, connected for 40,000 years, was suddenly broken into 3 pieces. Ships that had been hours away were now weeks away. Messages that had been instant now took months to arrive. Torvis watched the explosion with 4 eyes full of horror. He had won the battle. But he had lost everything that mattered. Back on Earth's hidden bases, Dr. Park Jin received the news. The old scientist nodded slowly. "Phase 2 complete," he said. "Now we begin Phase 3. Phase 3 was simple. Attack. Not the careful hidden attacks of before. Now, humanity would strike openly. They would take territory. They would free slaves. They would show the galaxy that the Valoran Dominion could be defeated. General Wu led the ground assault on the Valoran colony of Terminus Prime. It was a small world, lightly defended, the perfect target for humanity's first real conquest. The battle lasted 3 days. Human soldiers fought in ways the Valorans had never seen. They did not form lines. They did not follow predictable patterns. They attacked from every direction at once. They used the environment as a weapon. They fought dirty. When Terminus Prime fell, Li Wu planted the flag of United Earth on the governor's mansion. He recorded a message for the galaxy. "This is General Li Wu of United Earth," he said. "The Valoran Dominion declared us slaves. They were wrong. We are not slaves. We are not servants. We are not property. We are human. And we are coming for everything they have stolen." The message spread across the galaxy. Other species, long conquered by the Dominion, watched it with hope they had not felt in generations. If these humans could fight back, maybe they could too, on 17 different worlds. Slave uprisings began within a week of Li Wu's message. The Dominion was burning from the inside. Colonel Shinmyra continued her campaign of destruction. Her targets were no longer just computers and power grids. Now she attacked shipyards, weapons factories, military bases. Her team had grown from 40 soldiers to 400, joined by freed slaves and volunteers from other species. She stood on the ruins of a Valoran weapons facility and looked at the fires burning around her. Her hands were covered in ash and blood. Her eyes were empty. Is this what victory looks like? She asked no one in particular. Her second-in-command, a young man named Cho Kyung, stood beside her. "It looks like survival," he said. "That's all that matters." Shinmyra was not sure she agreed, but she had no time to think about it. There were more targets, more battles, more fires to start. The war was far from over. The Dominion was wounded but not dead. They still had millions of ships. They still had thousands of worlds. They could still win, but for the first time in 40,000 years, they were not certain of victory, and that uncertainty was the beginning of their end. 9 months after the war began, the Valoran Dominion started to tear itself apart. The 3 sectors created by the destruction of the Nexus could barely communicate with each other. Orders from the High Council took weeks to arrive. Reinforcements took months. Each sector began to act on its own. In the eastern sector, Governor Melax declared himself supreme commander. He claimed the High Council was dead, and that he alone could save the Empire. He was lying. The Council was very much alive, but the truth took too long to reach his territory in the western sector. 3 admirals fought each other for control of the remaining fleet. Their ships destroyed each other, while human strike teams watched and waited. In the central sector, where the homeworld of Valora Prime stood, the High Council grew desperate. They sent everything they had against the humans, but it was not enough. It was never enough. Admiral Kang Tae had recovered from his wounds. He walked with a limp now, and his left arm did not work as well as it once had. But his mind was still sharp. His will was still strong. He stood before the commanders of the human fleet. There were more of them now. Ships had been built in hidden factories. Captured Valoran vessels had been repaired and crewed. Volunteers from other species had joined the fight. The fleet that had once numbered 400 ships now numbered over 2,000. "We are going to end this war," Kang Tae said. "Not with 1,000 small cuts. Not with raids and sabotage. We are going to strike at the heart of the Dominion itself." The target was Valora Prime, the homeworld, the capital, the seat of the High Council. If it fell, the war was over, but Valora Prime was heavily defended. Even with the Empire fracturing, thousands of ships protected the sacred world. The orbital defense platforms could destroy entire fleets. The planetary shields could withstand bombardment for years. A direct assault was suicide. So humanity would not make a direct assault. Dr. Park Jin presented the final plan. It was called the Erebus Protocol. It was the last weapon in the Prometheus arsenal. For a century, we have mapped the hyperspace lanes of the galaxy, Park Jin explained. We know every route, every junction, every weakness. We have developed a way to collapse these lanes permanently. The room fell silent. Collapsing hyperspace lanes was theoretical. Many scientists believed it was impossible. If Park Jin had actually done it, it would change everything. We've already begun, Park Jin continued. The lanes connecting the 3 sectors were our first test. Now we will close the lanes around Valora Prime itself. We will trap them on their own world. We will cut them off from the rest of the galaxy. General Li Wu understood immediately. They won't be able to run. They won't be able to call for help. They'll be alone. Park Jin nodded. Alone and afraid. For the first time in 40,000 years, they will feel what their victims felt. The operation took 3 weeks. Human teams moved through space like shadows, planting charges at critical points in the hyperspace network. One by one, the lanes collapsed. The great highways of the galaxy became dead ends. When the last lane fell, Valora Prime was isolated. 1,000 ships defended it, but no more would come. The empire that had ruled 3,000 worlds was now trapped on one. The human fleet arrived in orbit. Admiral Kang Tae broadcast his message. This is Admiral Kang Tae of United Earth. Your empire is finished. Your fleet is scattered. Your lanes are closed. You have one chance to surrender. Take it. The Valoran response was immediate. Every weapon on the planet fired at once. Ships launched from orbital platforms. Defense cannons tore through space. They were not going to surrender. They were going to fight to the end. The battle for Valora Prime lasted 12 days. It was the bloodiest fighting humanity had ever experienced. Ships died by the hundreds. Soldiers fell by the thousands. The space around the planet became a graveyard of metal and fire. But humanity did not stop. They could not stop. They had come too far and lost too much to turn back now. On the 8th day, the orbital defenses fell. On the 10th day, the planetary shields collapsed. On the 12th day, human soldiers landed on Valoran soil for the first time. Yunari was among them. She had led the resistance on New Haven. Now she led the assault on the capital city. She walked through streets that had never seen war. She passed buildings that had stood for 10,000 years. She felt nothing but cold determination. The High Council chamber was in the center of the city. It was a tower of crystal and light, beautiful and terrible. It had been built to last forever. Forever ended that day. General Li Wu was the first human to enter the chamber. He found the High Council waiting for him. 7 aliens in robes of gold and silver. They looked old and tired and afraid. High Counselor Sereth spoke first. You have one, he said. His voice was hollow. The Dominion is finished. What do you want from us? Li Wu did not answer. Instead, he activated a communication device. A hologram appeared. President Yoon Hana looked at the defeated counselors with eyes that held no pity. I want you to understand something, the president said. We did not start this war. You came to us. You declared us slaves. You tried to take our freedom. Everything that has happened is a consequence of that decision. Sarath lowered his 4 eyes. We underestimated you. We thought you were primitives. We were wrong. Yes, Yoon Hana agreed. You were wrong. But that is not why you lost. You lost because you forgot what it means to fight for survival. You had been powerful for so long that you could not imagine being weak. You conquered so many species that you forgot they might one day conquer you. She paused. Humanity has never forgotten what it means to be weak. We have never forgotten what it means to struggle. Every day of our existence has been a battle. Against our planet, against each other. Against the universe itself, we were born fighting. We will die fighting. And anyone who tries to chain us will learn that lesson in blood and fire. The counselor said nothing. There was nothing left to say. The war was over. The Valoran Dominion had fallen, and humanity stood in the ruins of an empire. Wondering what to do with their victory, Li Wu looked at the trembling counselors and asked the question that would define the future of the galaxy. What happens now? 1 year after Ambassador Relos delivered his ultimatum, the galaxy was a different place. The Valoran Dominion no longer existed. Its 3,000 worlds had become 200 independent nations. Its million ships were scattered across space, belonging to whoever could claim them. Its slave species were free for the first time in generations, and humanity, the primitive species that was supposed to kneel, stood at the center of it all. President Yoon Hanna addressed the newly formed Galactic Assembly. Representatives from 47 species filled the chamber. Some had been slaves of the Dominion. Others had been conquered peoples, their cultures erased, their histories forgotten. Now they gathered as equals to decide the future of the galaxy. "We could rule you," Yoon Hanna said. Her voice was calm and steady. "We have proven that we are capable of conquest. We have the ships. We have the weapons. We have the will. But we did not fight this war for empire. We fought because someone tried to take our freedom. And freedom is not something that should be taken from anyone." She paused and looked at the faces watching her. Aliens of every shape and color. Beings who had suffered under Valoran rule for thousands of years. Beings who had watched humanity rise from nothing and bring down a civilization that seemed eternal. "We propose an alliance," the president continued. "Not a new empire. Not a new dominion. A partnership of free species, each world governing itself, each people determining their own destiny. Together, we will ensure that no empire ever rises again. Together, we will be free." The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Alliance was born. Commander Biksu did not attend the ceremony. She was busy with other things. Her fleet patrolled the former Dominion territories, keeping the peace, preventing warlords from rising. She had become a legend, the hero of Titan, the woman who had started the rebellion with a single explosion. She did not feel like a hero. She felt tired. She felt old, even though she was only war-aged people in ways that did not show on their faces. Her second-in-command, a young officer named Huang Jie, approached her on the bridge. "Commander, we have received orders from Earth. Admiral Kang Tae requests your presence at the Naval Academy. He wants you to teach." Biksu almost laughed. "Teach? I am a soldier, not a professor." "With respect, Commander," this was Admiral Kong. "He believes the next generation needs to learn from those who fought the war. Not just tactics and strategies, but what it means, what it costs." Biksu thought about this for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Tell the Admiral I will come. After one more mission." The mission was to Thaisara, the agricultural world that Colonel Shin Mira had crippled in the early days of the war. The famine was over now, but the scars remained. Millions had died. The survivors struggled to rebuild. Shin Mira was already there. She had requested the assignment herself. She could have been a general. She could have commanded armies. Instead, she chose to help rebuild what she had destroyed. When Biksu found her, Shin Mira was in a field, helping farmers plant new crops. Her uniform was dirty. Her hands were covered in soil. She looked more peaceful than Biksu had ever seen her. "You did not have to come here," Biksu said. "The war was necessary. What you did saved lives in the end." Shin Mira shook her head. "The war was necessary, but that does not mean it was right. I brought famine to this world. Children died because of me. I cannot undo that. But I can spend the rest of my life trying to make it better." Biksu understood. The fury that had won the war could not be the force that built the peace. Something softer was needed now. Something kinder on New Haven. Yunari became the first human governor of a liberated world. The planet was rebuilding. The mines and factories were closed. Schools and hospitals were being built. The scars of occupation would take generations to heal. But healing had begun. Yonari walked through the streets she had once crept through as a resistance leader. Children played in parks that had been killing grounds. Families ate dinner in homes that had been barracks. Life was returning. A young Valoran approached her. He was a child, no more than 10 years old by human standards. His parents had been administrators during the occupation. They had fled when the empire fell. He was alone now. Are you going to hurt me? The child asked. Nari knelt down to look into his 4 eyes. No, she said. We do not hurt children. We do not hurt the innocent. That is what makes us different from what your people were. The child did not understand. But he would, someday. That was the hope. Admiral Kongte returned to Earth. He was offered command of the entire human military. He declined. He had spent his life fighting. Now he wanted to do something else. He became a teacher at the Naval Academy. His classes were always full. Young officers came from across the galaxy to learn from the man who had broken the Dominion. But he did not teach them how to win wars. He taught them how to prevent them. War is failure, he told his students. It means we could not find another way. Yes, sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes there is no choice. But never seek war. Never desire it. If you must fight, fight to end the fighting as quickly as possible, and never forget the cost. Dr. Park Jin retired. He had spent a century preparing humanity for survival. Now survival was assured. He had nothing left to prove. Before he left, he gave one final interview. A reporter asked him the question everyone wanted answered. How had humanity done it? How had they beaten an empire 40,000 years old? Park Jin smiled his patient smile. We did not beat them because we were stronger, he said. We beat them because they did not understand what we were. Every other species they conquered had something to lose. A home, a future, a hope. We had already lost our home when they bombarded Earth. We had no future if we surrendered. Our only hope was to fight until we could not fight anymore. He paused. The Valorans thought they were offering us a choice between slavery and death. But for humanity, slavery was worse than death. We would rather cease to exist than live in chains. That is something the Dominion never understood, and it is why they lost. The final scene of the war took place in a small apartment on Earth. The planet was being rebuilt. Humans were returning from their hiding places. Cities were rising from the ashes. Life was beginning again. In the apartment sat Ambassador Relos, the Valoran who had delivered the ultimatum. The alien who had started everything. He had been found adrift in space, his ship destroyed, his people defeated. He had requested asylum on Earth. He expected to be executed. He expected torture. He expected revenge. Instead, he was given a small apartment and a stipend. He was told he could stay as long as he wanted. He was told he was safe. President Yunhana visited him once. She stood in the doorway and looked at the alien who had declared her species slaves. You are wondering why we did not kill you, she said. Raylos nodded. His 4 eyes were dim with confusion and shame. Because that is not who we are, the president replied. We are not our fury. We are not our weapons. We are not the civilization we destroyed. We are something better. Or at least we are trying to be. She turned to leave. At the door, she stopped. You called us primitives. You were right. We are young. We are rough. We make mistakes. But we learn. We grow. We become more than we were. She looked back at him one last time. Perhaps you can learn that too. She left. Raylo sat alone in his apartment and thought about everything that had happened. He had come to Earth expecting to see a species kneel. Instead, he had watched them rise. He had seen them fight with the fury of dying stars, and then he had seen them show mercy. He did not understand humans. He was not sure he ever would, but he was beginning to think that the galaxy was lucky they existed. Outside the window, the sun set over a city being reborn. Children played in the streets. Families gathered for dinner. Ships rose toward the stars, carrying hope instead of weapons. Humanity had been tested. They had been pushed to the edge of extinction. They had responded with fury that erased a civilization. But in the end, their greatest victory was not the empire they destroyed. It was the one they refused to become.